Is it really that time again?
We are now a few years removed from Half-Life Alyx, the ending of which reinvigorated the idea that there's actually going to be a Half-Life 3, pretty much all but confirming it. But how long will the wait actually be? 5 years? 15 years? No one can be sure, but I personally would not expect it anytime soon. Half-Life 3 for a long time has been considered a myth, a game that would never come. There have been countless videos discussing Half-Life 3, but I wanted to make one discussing the single, long-standing issue with Half-Life 3 being released, even though this issue is what causes Half-Life games to be revolutionary. The issue is not lack of talent or creativity, and not lack of direction or budget problems either. The issue with Half-Life 3 has always been technology. But what do I actually mean by that? Well, to understand, we need to look at the fully fledged games in the series, Half-Life, Half-Life 2, and Half-Life Alyx. Is there anything you notice about these three games? Of course they were all received exceptionally well, but look at what the games actually did. For its time, Half-Life was on a whole nother level. It revolutionized the FPS genre. To list some feats, its AI for NPCs and enemies were incredibly advanced for the time. It offered a seamless gameplay experience with amazing level design. It also had a focus on story and plot, incredible graphics, etc. Half-Life 2 showcased the new Source engine. It had incredible graphics, but Half-Life 2 also took a unique approach to character models. It utilized mocap, which was not very common back in games from 2004. Valve also hired actors so they could utilize the actors' faces for character textures. All of this resulted in remarkably impressive character models and animations. Seriously, look at the lip syncing, it lines up perfectly.
I'm Alex Vance. My father worked with you back in Black Mesa. I'm sure you don't remember me though.
This is no cutscene, this is not pre-rendered, this is all in-game in real time. To this day, games still don't do this nearly as well. Anyway, the plot, level design, and AI were also elevated, along with great driving sequences in an FPS game. But I haven't mentioned the revolutionary accomplishment, the astonishing physics engine. Physics on everything, everywhere, and it was all realistic. These feats all merged together to create one of the best PC games ever made, and one that revolutionized the genre once again. Half-Life Alyx then released in 2020 and showcased Valve's Source 2 engine. Like the other two games, the graphics, plot, level design, physics, and creativity were on full display here. But I'll cut straight to the chase. What was revolutionary? That it was all in VR. It redefined what a VR game is capable of. This was a game-changing experience, and one that made no compromises. But don't misconstrue the point I'm trying to make here. You may think my argument is that each main Half-Life title was revolutionary, so Half-Life 3 needs to be. But that's not what I'm saying. Rather, my point is the development of each game took place because Valve had a reason to, and that reason was always to show off their technology. It just so happens that showing off such tech leads to each Half-Life being revolutionary. I, of course, did not come up with this observation, but I do feel it's the main issue holding up Half-Life 3's development. I'm not saying it's the only issue either, just the most important one. In other words, the games being masterpieces are a byproduct of Valve wanting to push and show off their tech. Whether it is Half-Life 1's AI or seamless gameplay, Half-Life 2's physics engine, or Half-Life Alyx's VR tech that redefined VR gaming, each game always had technology Valve wanted to show off. That is the issue. If there is no new tech, then there is no Half-Life 3. Valve is not your ordinary developer. If they're going to develop a game like Half-Life 3, they need more than simply a good reason to. Valve could have every reason in the world, actually, but if they don't want to do it, then they're not going to. But before I elaborate more, I want to clarify again. This issue I'm talking about only pertains to their fully fledged Half-Life games. There was Blue Shift and Opposing Force expansions after Half-Life and Episodes 1 and 2 after Half-Life 2. They continued to utilize the same technology from the main games, so there was no new crazy technology in those expansions. In the same vein, those expansions came out pretty quickly after each main title released. Well, almost all of them. This should all tell you that when Valve does not need to create a new technology, they can actually develop games or expansions pretty quickly. Anyway, back to the main discussion. A natural question is, what kind of new tech would it be for Half-Life 3? Naturally, I would not think it is VR tech or anything like that. Half-Life 3 cannot be a VR-only game. Valve knows this. They know it's an experience that needs to be played by everyone, and VR is too niche. Because of this, Half-Life 3 needs to be a regular FPS sort of game. But back to what the technology could be, I honestly have no clue. It could be as simple as new facial animation technology, or something far more complex like new AI tech. But when discussing Half-Life 3, there is good news, at least to some extent. That Valve made Half-Life Alyx means they want to make Half-Life 3. To have an ending with huge implications like it did means something. Hell, to show gameplay after Episode 2's ending means Valve has a story worth telling and wants to tell it. They could have left Half-Life alone, or make Half-Life Alyx with no reference to the future of what the series may be. But they chose not to. They chose to continue the story. So why, given all this, am I still hesitant? Because it's frickin' Valve. Keep this in mind. Valve has so much talent that at any point they could drop Half-Life 3 with no new tech and it would still be guaranteed to receive rave reviews and sell many millions of copies. It would be such a success, but Valve has made one thing clear. They don't give a fuck. With nearly 13 years between Episode 2 and Half-Life Alyx, Valve is a different kind of developer. With Steam and all their other money-making channels, nobody at Valve is going to force anybody to develop Half-Life 3 until the time is right. And from my perspective, the time will only be right when they have a new technology to show off. There is no timeline, there is no schedule, and there's no rush. Ultimately, when Half-Life 3 comes out, it's a game that will be worth the wait. Half-Life has never been about getting Game of the Year or 10 out of 10s. Half-Life is about revolutionizing the industry, putting everyone else on notice for what a game can be. Like I said earlier, Valve is a different type of developer. Valve is a different breed, and Half-Life 3 would be their magnum opus. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.